This is a re-recording of the mono diet that I did yesterday. I received a suggestion that the audio could be much better than it was. So I'm re-recording it today. Hopefully the audio is better. So here we go. Mono diet. A mono diet is basically just like it sounds, a one fruit or vegetable or drink that one consumes for a period of time. And I have experienced a couple of mono diets, and many that are going to be included in this video that aren't mono diets technically, but very specific kinds of diets. Osawa's macrobiotic diet, which I did for a couple of years, and Arnold Ehret's Mucusless diet healing system. Both of these were excellent diets, fantastic. In addition to those, I've done fruitarian diet for a year. Just fruit, and some nuts, and restricted diets I've also done, where the amount is very limited. In this case, a quart, less than a quart bowl, a coconut bowl a day of food, which I did with one of my fellow monks here, Dharma Master Hong Shun, who's still a monk. For a year, over a year. Many of these diets I just mentioned, I did prior to becoming a monk. I was living on the North Shore of Hawaii at the time, surfing a lot, and most of my fellow surf friends were very into nutrition and foods. So we watched what we ate. We experimented with different kinds of diets. So I'll kick off with one of the more interesting diets that I did, which was a true mono diet. I got the idea from reading this book. This was when I was about 18, about a clinic in Mexico that was curing cancer by feeding their patients nothing but grapes. Raisins, grape products, grape juice, but nothing but 100% grapes. Different kinds of grapes, white grapes, red grapes, tiny grapes, big grapes, sour grapes. No pun intended on the sour grapes. And they were having quite a bit of success. The program that was the clinic in Mexico, I believe it was you could enroll for 3 to 6 months of this diet, and it was all very well, people were very much cared for by the physicians that were in charge. This diet was fantastic. I did it for about 2 months. Maybe a little bit less. And I didn't have any sickness at the time. And I just did it because of my general interest in nutrition. I like to feel really good, and if I could feel even better, so much the better. So this diet I did, and it's very cleansing diet. It cleans out your system. You feel very light and airy and pliable and malleable. Your body is very adept to yoga and so forth. Various forms of meditation postures and yoga postures. This diet had a very, very profound effect on the way I thought and the alertness of my mind. I would suggest it as a cleansing diet, mostly. Or if you have a tendency to, experience torpor, sleepiness, heaviness of body, fatigue, drowsiness, all of these, even though you're getting proper sleep and nutrition, this would probably be a very good cure for that. I certainly had much more energy on this particular diet. Now, there's different kinds of energy, and the next mono diet I did had a very different effect, and it wasn't recommended by a doctor or any kind of diet I have ever read about or heard about, until one day in Nepal I went to Pashupatinath, which is the sacred temple of Lord Shiva and one of the 4 holy places for Hindus in the world. And 3 are in India. One happens to be in Nepal, and one happened to be about a 2-hour walk from my house. I went there regularly to visit the yogis and see the pilgrims coming from all over India and Nepal just to go there. It was a great place to meditate. It was situated in a forest by a Himalayan river. There I went, and one day I met a yogi called Dudh Bala Yogi. Dudh Bala Yogi means the Dudh is milk, Bala is strength, and yogi, we all know, is a skilled practitioner of mind training and body training. He was a very spectacular person. For one thing, he was this tall, dark, and handsome yogi, about 40 years old. And he was a classic Indian, very North Indian yogi, tall and very majestic looking. And he had about 10 feet of hair that was coiled up like a snake in front of him. And so I met him in a little temple where he lived. There were probably 100 small temples around the main temple at Pashupati, and yogis would usually stay in those temples while they're sojourning for a week or 2 weeks, and then there was a constant change. But in his case, he was there all the time for the last 30 or so years when I met him. And so I was very enthusiastic to learn his story, which he told me. When what happened was when he was 15, he was from a farming family. He went to this lake called Gusankund, that's about 20,000 feet up in the mid-Himalayas. And there's a saying in his district that if you have a vision of Shiva in the lake, have the darshan of Shiva in the lake, you're blessed for life. So this youth, he went there and he was looking at that lake, but he wasn't specifically thinking of having a darshan of Shiva or anything. He was just a kid wandering around the Himalaya. And lots of kids do wander the Himalayas. I've come across kids 5 years old in the middle of nowhere, barefoot in the snow, 3 hours from any house, and you just got to wonder, wow, such a different culture. And they might have been sent to the uncles to get some butter or something like that. But it's quite common. So he went to this lake and he looked in it, and he had this incredible vision of Lord Shiva. He was 15, and right then he vowed that he would only drink milk for the rest of his life. That's quite a vow. And in Hinduism, there's a lot connected with milk, but and everything about it is sattvic. It's pure. I've written on this before. Milk, if you look at it, it's white, the most pure of colors. The cow that gives it is a very gentle, peaceful, and patient animal. If you see a cow that's, no matter how hungry it is or thirsty, go to the trough to get food or water when there's other cows around it, they just kind of lumber on over, and they don't push their way, but they kind of wait for all the other cows to be done, and then they stroll in and get their feed and their water. The cow's dung is used throughout Nepal and India as plaster for homes. They mix it with red mud and they plaster the homes. The reason is the mixture will insulate against cold in winter and heat in summer. Not only that, it's an antiseptic and it's a bug repellent. Every single morning in many of the houses in the Nepal villages, they take mud with the cow dung and make a liquid out of it and mop the floor with it every single morning, because number one, it makes everything perfectly clean. It dries very quickly, and it has a lovely fragrance, and it keeps the bugs out. So that comes from the cow. Even the cow's dung is special. The urine I'm not sure about, but I think I heard that midstream is good for something, maybe a mouthwash. The cow, in addition to giving milk, is a great playmate for children. It's very gentle, and children love to play with it, and it will play with the children too. It will chip in a little light work around the farm. Not like an ox or anything, but it will, do a little plowing now and then. So it also helps out where it can. Its sound is amazing. What other animal's sounds is so beautiful. It bellows a ohm in reverse. Moo. It's ohm. Moo. The cow can't be beat. And if you eat its food, it's especially its yogurt, ghee, which is churned butter, clarified butter. You boil it and you take out any of the solids. And that's ghee. That's considered the most nutritious food on the planet in many ways. Not only it gives tremendous strength and energy, it's sattvic. It provides overall really good health, skin, and muscle tone, and so forth. So the cow, we can thank for ghee, which is the purest of pure foods on the planet. And next is its milk. So the yogi that I met, getting back to him, he just drank milk. When I met him, he had been drinking milk for about 20 years, but I'd known him off and on, except for the last 10 years, but I knew him for 40 years and checked in on him now and then. We became very good friends. So he just drank milk, and he was in perfect health. And when I met him, he had been drinking milk for about 15 years, and last time I saw him was maybe when he'd been drinking milk 40 years. So I was recently arrived in Nepal after being a monk for 10 years, and I went to, I met him, and this was about a year after arriving in Nepal, and I decided, well, I'd give that a try. So I just drank milk, but I didn't do it forever. I did it for 6 months, very strict, just milk. And I felt great for 5 months, but then things started going downhill at 5 months, and I quit at 6. What specifically happened was I just started getting the shakes. When I'd write, I'd scribble more than I'd write. So but for 5 months, the way I felt was quite the opposite of Brandt's grape cure. Milk is very grounding. Your thoughts are very even. You feel on very good basis. The foundation of meditation was very good. There was no airiness or flightiness of mind, which happens on the grape cure. So it was a very different diet, and it was certainly not cleansing like the grape cure. The grape cure is very special in that way. So it was just my diet, so I'm not really recommending it to anybody. The yogi did fine on it. I did fine for a few months. And for me, it was more of an ascetic practice than anything else that I occasionally enjoyed doing. One of the most fantastic diets, and it made me feel, not surprising, very similar to the grape cure, was nothing but fruit for a year. And I did that with Dharma Master Hung Shun, who's still a monk here. And we're still very good friends, and he still eats once a day, so do I. But we took a vow together to just eat fruit, and we kept it for a year. I say 2, but I think he corrected me recently and said it was only 1. But we also did another diet where we only ate 1 coconut bowl full of food a day. So I'm 6'4" and 180 pounds, 185. So a coconut bowl of food a day wasn't a lot, and I only drink water afternoon when I eat once a day. When I was a monk, I just drank water afternoon. So that was a very tough diet for a lot of reasons. For getting enough nutrition in that 1 bowl, I broke about, I don't know, I lost count how many coconut bowls I broke trying to get more food in them. But both of us did pretty good. We were very healthy. People tend to eat much more than they need, so it was a good lesson in discipline. The best diet I ever was on for cleansing, which I did for well over a year, was Arnold Ehret's Mucusless diet healing system. Interestingly enough, that diet was popular probably in the late 50s. I started practicing it in the late 60s, and I, out of curiosity, checked to see if it's still the book is still published, the Mucusless Diet Healing System. It's been published almost every single year since it first came out. So there's real adamant followers of his diet. He says it'll cure anything, and not only cure anything, but keep you from getting anything. And I have to say, I believe he's right. It's a phenomenal diet for getting rid of illness and staying healthy if you were sick and you're well now. It consists of, his theory is the body is like a sponge, and just like the cells of a sponge, just collect all sorts of dirt and stuff. Like, he says that the cells of the body collect all sorts of fat and toxins that get bound up in the fat and so forth. So he said the solution is not to have anything that the disease can bind to in your body. So his was a diet of 0 fat, no milk, no dairy, no cheeses or anything like that, no grain, no white potato, because these are starches that clog up the system. His diet mostly consisted of green, yellow, red vegetables. Probably 90% was that. Buckwheat, I believe, was allowed, and nuts were allowed. No fat at all. Of course, no meat at all. No meat, dairy, poultry, or any of that. For cleansing, it's fantastic. It's the best diet ever for getting healthy. The book is called Mucusless Diet Healing System by Arnold Ehret. There is a companion volume called Arnold Ehret's Mucusless Diet Healing System Cookbook. So it gives you a bunch of recipes on what to cook, a whole bunch of them, and how to make pretty delicious food with, limited ingredients, having a lot less than we're usually used to. It's a fantastic diet. A slight downside is I wouldn't call it a meditation diet because it kind of makes you very light in body and light and flighty in mind. You have tremendous amount of energy, but you don't feel grounded ever. So when you meditate, you really have to have some skill to get yourself grounded. As far as energy goes, it gives you more energy than any diet I've been on, and keeps you healthier. The other diet that I did for a year or two was Osawa's Macrobiotic diet. Now that's a real meditation diet. It keeps you very, very grounded. It's 90% grain, yang grain, like brown rice. And then other yang foods, the other 10% can be like pickled turnips and things like that, pickled cabbage, radish, and fermented foods are okay. There's different levels of that. The number 10 level, the best level, is 90% grain, and the rest, and no fruit, but unless it's a yang fruit. The only yang fruits I think he mentions is cherries and apple. All the other, all the other foods are yin. So that diet is really good for meditation. The downside is it does make you really super grounded, so you have to have some skill in meditation, stay awake and alert and focused. But once you get focused and alert, you stay focused really well because it's a very grounding diet. And you may feel like you have a little less energy to do things when you're on it. It doesn't make you feel light and airy like the Arnold Ehret's diet or a fruitarian diet or the Grape cure. It makes you feel really grounded and solid, but you may have trouble mustering energy to do things. So you have to be aware, well, it's the diet that's causing this, and I'm just going to have to put more effort into it. So this is these diets teach a lot of discipline. It keeps you focused and on getting rid of cravings and hankerings for different foods. The diets are good overall for meditation. When Hong Shun and I did that fruitarian diet for a year, of course we were thinking about nothing but a bowl of rice the whole time, or some bread and or pastry or something. You're always going to think of things you can't have. So you don't want to be miserable all the time, so it forces you to focus more on, mind training techniques. You don't want to be fighting with yourself thinking of food. So these diets are really great, but because they do help you for mind training. indirectly not only is good for the body, but it's very good for the mind. So for myself, I do all of my diets were mostly for mind training, disciplining my mind. Other people will have their own reasons for doing it, health reasons primarily, and staying healthy, because these diets really keep you healthy once you get healthy if you're sick, and you don't get sick anymore. 10 years as a monk, by the way, I never missed a ceremony, a morning ceremony or evening ceremony, because I never got even a cold 10 years as a monk. So, and this is in Northern California, and I very rarely get sick now. I'll catch a flu or a cold once a year, that's it. And I usually don't take anything for them. So I'm presenting this not as a specific suggestion as far as diet goes, but as a suggestion that it's something that there are many different kinds of these diets these days. And I mentioned just, a small fraction of some ideas, but there's many others to choose from. And it never hurts to choose one and commit to a month or so, at least, on one of the diets and see how you feel. And you can always do another one, a completely different one. If the one you choose doesn't work, you could do it, a few months later. It's just a good way of keeping healthy and disciplining one's mind. So I hope that this video has good recording. I'm re-recording it, as I mentioned earlier, and hopefully everything turns out okay. We'll see in a few moments. Bon appetit. Appetit.